Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards was essentially Kirby's initial jump to 3D, even though the game is still 2D platformer. They decided to take some risks and experiment with some new mechanics like limited floating, some vehicle summons that don't make me want to tear my hair out, and combining copy abilities. And this is the reason the game is so amazing. Fiddling with different copy abilities is half the fun of Kirby 64. There are some more obvious combinations like needle and stone that give Kirby a drill. Then there are some useless ones like ice and fire that turn Kirby into a melting ice block. And holy crap, Sith Lord Kirby!
Give yourself to the dark side.
Nah, Fire Sword's better.
No!
The game also has some very varied designs, traveling to different themed worlds with plenty to take in, all of them hiding the crystal shards that you need to collect, and all the while treating us to your classic cutesy Kirby soundtrack. Though, not gonna lie, that boss theme is pretty intense. So the story is simple. Evil darkness takes over Happy Place, special MacGuffin to help get shattered, Kirby helps, hijinks ensue. Yeah, it's not a complex narrative, but it gets the job done. They really don't ask for much from a Kirby game, which makes it more jarring when you realize this game gets pretty dark. Even glossing over the multiple situations of possession, this game's villain is just plain freaky. Oh, and Ripple Star's second level has this really unsettling atmosphere. You know, for such a cute franchise, Kirby's villains are pretty messed up. When it comes to zombies, I'm indifferent to the genre as a whole. I don't hate them, but I don't particularly like them either. It all really depends on how it's done. So when a game like Left 4 Dead 2 is on the list, you know there's something special about it.
That's my official instructions.
This used to be a nice neighborhood.
The first Left 4 Dead starred 4 survivors trying to escape the rampaging horde of zombies, which is fine, but I can't help but feel it took itself a little too seriously. Left 4 Dead 2 has largely the same narrative, but the tone is much more casual, and it managed to keep the urgency of this scenario alive while still reminding us that our 4 survivors are just trying to stay calm in a life or death situation. Frickin' witches, man! What really separates this game from other zombie games, though, is that rush. This isn't like Dead Rising where the zombies are just kill fodder, or Nazi zombies where we have a barricade to work with. No, no, no! Here the zombies are freaking berserkers. They're coming at you from all angles and they do not let up. So you and your team need to act fast and move fast if they ever hope to survive. Adding to the difficulty are the special infected. Smokers, chargers, jockeys, tanks, and freaking witches, man! If you get the chance to play this game though, try playing it with 3 other friends. The multiplayer feature of this game is really well done, forcing you to all work together and communicate. Or heck, even the arena mode where a player can experience the thrill of playing as one of the infected. This game just has a great tone balance. Our 4 heroes are facing a zombie apocalypse, and yet they have enough charisma to treat us to some playful banter. Seriously, I can listen to Elsa's rambling all day.
But there was this guy I knew. He raced dirt tracks, not stock cars, but open wheel cars, you know? And he was racing once, and a goat...
Ellis, is now the best time?
Okay, but there was a goat.
I consider myself pretty lucky for playing Legend of Dragoon, because apparently it now goes for $200 a pop. While I wouldn't say it's that good, it's still enough to make my 18th favorite game. A lot of people have said that this game rips off Final Fantasy VII. Well, that's not true. We have a strong, silent-type hero with a vendetta, his home village getting burned down, the villain wears black and has white hair. It sounds more unique when the game says it, trust me. Legend of Dragoon is a game spanning 55 hours, but it came out at a time when tutorials weren't 10 hours long, and part of that is because the gameplay is simple yet unique. Think of it as a precursor to Mario and Luigi's Superstar Saga. It uses something called additions, which allow you to make multiple attacks if you manage to time your button presses correctly. Strangely enough, magic is item-based, but you want to hold off on those until you get Shauna or Maru. I also like that defending slightly recovers your health, making it a much more viable option than in other RPGs. Also, spoiler alert, each character eventually gets a Dragoon transformation, which gives you the sick-looking armor and all these awesome-looking attacks. So, that's where Kane Highwind got it from. The cutscenes for the attacks take a long time, but you really don't care because they just look so cool. But I think what makes this work is the cast of characters. You have Dart, a kind, loyal, yet impulsive and broken man. Heschel, the wise yet goofy monk, Maru, the hopeless romantic dix with an enormous hammer and a bit of a sordid past, Albert, the very nerdly king, they all play off each other very well, and you're so invested in their reactions to each situation. The art style is a little anachronistic though, like why do all the dragons look like mutated insectoid robots? Didn't know we were having a crossover with Starship Troopers. I've made it no secret that I love League of Legends. Not really for the gameplay, but more for the lore. Oh, don't get me wrong, the gameplay is fine. While not the easiest system to get into, especially given the horde of screaming trolls that harass you if you don't do things exactly perfect, it's relatively accessible and learning it is a lot of fun. It's just gonna take you a while to truly get the deeper aspect of it. One of those easy to learn but impossible to master scenarios, and I'll concede that it's not for everyone. But what really gets me about League of Legends is that Riot went out of their way to build a huge and expansive world that is teeming with intrigue and significance. They didn't have to, since this is simply an arena-based team clash and a lot of these characters would seem out of place when compared to others, but the world of Runeterra makes it work. It gives the gameplay more meaning knowing that there's a rivalry between the kingdoms of Demacia and Noxus as well as the city-states Piltover and Zaun. You care about the champions that come from troubled locations like the war-torn Freljord and the corrupted parts of Bilgewater, and all of these greater conflicts are given small details to build off of. Things like the star-crossed love between Garen and Katarina, the sad stories of the cursed children Annie and Amumu, and even little things like Jax and Gragas being drinking buddies. Those are the small elements that make me chuckle, but also scratch my chin in joyful thought. It truly motivates me to really get into playing this game, which is still being constantly updated with new champions, new items, polished mechanics, and a revamped rune system that doesn't give newcomers thank you. At first glance, it's a lot to take in, and that's par for the course with MOBAs, but I feel that League of Legends managed to become a decent gateway to anyone who wants to get into the genre. And if the gameplay isn't your cup of tea, hey, at least the shorts are awesome. As much as I love League, though, I wouldn't say it's my favorite MOBA. For that, we travel to the fantastical world of Blizzard Entertainment. Things started with Defense of the Ancients and then Dota 2, but once Blizzard reclaimed the licensing, they answered the MOBA fans with the silly, but satisfying, Heroes of the Storm. It's a lot like League, except the battles are a bit shorter and has some different mechanics, and it certainly isn't taking itself seriously. This game brings together the characters from throughout Blizzard's library of franchises, so it'd be difficult to make a poignant tone with ETC rocking out with Overwatch while Stitches feasts upon one of the StarCraft generals. The game plays like your standard MOBA with abilities, ultimates, and the goal being to take over the enemy base, but this game stands out with some cool features. The ability to upgrade certain talents like World of Warcraft means you can play the same hero in different ways, and I gotta admit the mounts are a nice touch. There are also characters of the kind that you'll never play in any other MOBA, like the one where you control 3 characters or where 2 people control 1 character, but I think what truly makes this game great is its accessibility. You don't have to worry about managing runes or masteries, you don't have to worry about gold or items, you don't have to worry about last-hitting minions. You just pick the talents as you go, and there are healing fountains and healer characters to ensure that you're always in the fray and actually playing the game. And it also offers great variety in the number of different maps that you can play. Overall, you don't have to think too hard about it. Just go in, have fun, and beat the crap out of everyone. Unless you're playing Lucio, then just heal everyone. Oh, and also, if you play Lunara, I hate you. To be honest, I never was into the Fire Emblem games growing up. While I always liked the designs of the characters, the stories were interesting, and Smash made me love Roy, I always found the they die for good mechanic too punishing, and it made it rather inaccessible for me, which seemed to be the case for a lot of people. And that's when Fire Emblem Awakening came along and gave me a big ol' noob-friendly hug. The first game in the series to feature a casual mode, Awakening was essentially Nintendo's answer to those who wanted a more laid-back experience. Sure, you can bust your hump and try to keep everyone alive in classic mode, or you could sit back, relax, and enjoy the wonderful story and charming cast of colorfully endearing characters. Perhaps the most notable part of this game is that every character has support options and guaranteed marriage options, a mechanic that had only been flirted with in previous games. Awakening introduces a plot twist halfway through that, while not exactly the work of Tolkien, still took me by surprise. I'm not going to spoil it even though most already know about it, but let's just say that your marriage pairings are going to have a huge effect later on. What I also enjoyed was how the game gave you options for expedience. You could watch every battle using a dynamic view, making things cooler, flashier, and all around more immersive. But if you wanted to grind, you could select casual mode at the beginning of your save file and have your characters be immortal. And of course, the pairing support system in this game is brilliant. It makes some of the later levels a breeze, especially once all your units are married to complementary units. This is one of those games that ties together story and gameplay exceedingly well. The BioShock series is unique in many different ways, even to this day. At first it may seem like your standard first-person shooter with a twist, but BioShock manages to create an experience that makes you feel powerful, but also makes you question where that power comes from. The first BioShock took the world by storm with its brilliant storytelling and setting. BioShock 2 flipped the perspective and made a few improvements to the gameplay, and then we got BioShock Infinite, which expanded on the overarching conflict of the series while also providing a much more refined gameplay experience. Of the three games, I feel like the first BioShock had the best narrative, while BioShock Infinite was the most fun to play. So would you kindly allow me to include both?
Get it? Get it?
First of all, the world of Rapture is a treasure trove of creativity, an underwater utopia turned dystopia. As soon as you arrive, you are thrust into a morbidly whimsical conflict where you are tasked to eliminate the root of all evil, Andrew Ryan, and the game does an amazing job keeping you from questioning it. I mean, why would you? You're going around picking up these awesome guns and utilizing these awesome powers and taking out the extremely hostile denizens of Rapture and putting it into some psychopaths that seriously have some screws loose. Seriously, Infinite seems to have perfected most aspects of modern video games in terms of gameplay. The combat is fluid, the powers are fun to play with, and the trans-dimensional mechanics are helpful and unique. And again, Elizabeth is an AI who actually helps you. Both BioShock and BioShock Infinite have some incredibly amazing pieces to play with. BioShock's story, imagery, and dark themes, and Infinite's fluidity, combat mechanics, and intense action make them both must-plays for any lover of video games. Would you kindly take a look at these games, my dear viewers?
Would you kindly? Powerful phrase.
Ooh, so chilling. The Jak and Daxter series has switched tones over the course of its developmental puberty. It started out as a fun and wholesome 3D platformer collectathon like Banjo-Kazooie, then it went through its emo phase with guns and darkness and a police state, and finally, it reached adulthood. Jak 3 is a signature Naughty Dog third-person action-adventure game that takes aspects from the two previous games and perfects them. You get the rich environments and heavier story from the second game, as well as the fluid platforming and action from the first game. And then you add in the great comedy, along with a very accessible driving system, and an amazingly awesome twist that combines lore from all previous iterations, and you have one incredible game. Naughty Dog knows their stuff.
But I mostly play it for the cool guns and the superpowers. Woohoo!
The weapons incorporated into the game are by far my favorite part. Each kind of gun from the previous game makes a comeback, which is great. I love me my Peacemaker. But in Jak 3, they're updated with 2 new upgrades each, allowing for more versatility and even some puzzle solving. Red Eco weapons focus on raw damage and explosions. Yellow Eco is great for long range. Blue Eco is proficient in short bursts of damage that chews through ammo pretty fast. And Dark Eco weapons are... special. So you have the Soldier, the Sniper, the Heavy, and the Demo Man, maybe? Well, hey, there actually is a black Cyclops who gives you the Peacemaker in Jak 2. While I would like to play more with Jak and Daxter, the trilogy seems perfectly capped off here at the third game. The story of the Resistance in Haven City and the fate of Sparga City was complete, the gameplay didn't feel like there was anything missing, and the characters both old and new seem to have grown up nearly all the way. It's a bittersweet thought to know that we likely won't be getting any more new games featuring these colorful characters and environment, but hey, we still have enough snarky Daxter clips to last us until Dark Eco consumes us all.
Something you're not telling us, Animal Man?
Our boy here gets all mean and nasty when you piss him off. So don't piss him off. Word to the wise.
You're born, bork, bork, bork. In this bowl, we has a beautiful yummy RPG that people seem to look over. Put in the bag of the character customization, a stick of story butter, and just a pinch of fast travel. Stick it in the oven until 2006, and kaboom! We have Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
I know I'm not going to be able to get through this segment without the inevitable comparisons to Skyrim, so I'm just going to get it out of the way. There are several reasons why I prefer Oblivion. For one, I like the menu interfaces a lot more. It's easier and quicker to find what you need. 2, I liked how your character had more customization options. They had classes, you could be born under a sign, things like that gave your character more of a flavor. 3, I liked how you could wield a sword and a shield and cast spells at the same time. Gotta say, I felt really gimped in Skyrim. 4, I liked how you could drop off everything you sell at a single vendor so you wouldn't have to spend hours hoarding dragon bones from city to city. My pack rat instincts must be sated. 5, you could create your own spells. It's little things like that made me feel more in control, like it was much easier to kidnap NPCs. 6, Oblivion's environments are more varied. Don't get me wrong, there's some interesting locations in Skyrim, but compared to Oblivion, it's pretty lacking. Oh look, more snow, and oh look, more snow. Haven't seen that before. And 7, okay, I kind of enjoy how campy Oblivion is. Before we had arrows and knees, we had, golly, you're the grand champion. And before we had the Wabbajack, we had
Cheese for everyone!
Sweet!
With craziness like that happening anytime you visit a town, Skyrim felt super serious and dour in comparison. Serious is fine, don't get me wrong, but I just can't help but appreciate the unintentional and sometimes intentional humor that arises from this colorful menagerie of NPCs. Overall, I feel that Oblivion had a good tone balance while also providing a genuinely fun adventure.
Previously on Josh Scorcher.
Hyrule Warriors? Yes! It's gonna suck because it's not a real Zelda game.
This game is awesome. Now, before you guys get on my case in the future about the one per franchise rule, that's the thing. What franchise is it a part of? The Legend of Zelda? Dynasty Warriors? Is it its own entity? The answer is yes, so I'm just gonna treat it as its own game. My excitement for Hyrule Warriors when it was first announced was genuine, if a little overplayed, and once it came out, it did not disappoint. This game is the joyful power trip of Dynasty Warriors, but with characters from one of my favorite franchises of all time. That's not to say this game doesn't have its own flavor though, with tons of cool characters and locales, new features, new mechanics, and hey, they even threw some exclusive characters too. Of course, there's Link and Zelda, as well as Impa and Sheik, but it's also really cool to see what some side characters can really do. Darunia using the Megaton Hammer and Princess Ruto using the Zor Scale is really awesome to see and play. It's a lot of fun letting loose with Zant's insanity or Girhin's flamboyant flair. Oh, and playing as Ganondorf is a thrill! Seriously, this guy is a freaking lion, and I never thought that ditzy Linkle would be as OP as she is. Speaking of which, on top of the main story and the initial roster, this game is bursting with DLC and all of it fairly priced, most of it free. Characters like young Link from Majora's Mask and Tetra from Wind Waker, along with new maps and quests to tackle. Add that to the mountain of collectibles to find, and this game is sure to keep you busy for a long time. It helps that the variety of characters and weapons will ensure that this game doesn't get too repetitive, and you won't even have to get the DLC now. The definitive edition is just around the corner for the Switch, so if you want to experience everything that this game has to offer, and probably more, well, here you go. You can bet I'm excited to give this game a second go.